Welcome to Fast Keto. I'm your host, Ketogenic Girl. Did you know that your body can actually be either a sugar burner or a fat burner? On this podcast, we talk all about how to make your body a fat-burning, fat-fueled machine and engaging your full metabolic flexibility. I'm Vanessa Spina. I am a sport nutrition specialist, a biomedical science student at U of T, and I am the author of the best-selling cookbook Keto Essentials, available on Amazon, and creator of the Ketogenic Girl Challenge program. And I am obsessed with optimizing our health through all these different biohacks, ketogenesis, intermittent fasting, all of these amazing tools that center around making the body a fat-adapted, fat-fueled machine. With this in mind, I present interviews to you with biomedical scientists, physicians, and people from all around the world who have experienced remarkable results from following a low-carb or ketogenic diet and getting their body into ketogenesis. So I hope you guys enjoy these interviews with this goal in mind. Hey guys, welcome back to Fast Keto. I'm so happy to be here with you today. It is Thursday, May 20th, and today we're going to talk all about high fat versus high protein, the never-ending debate, but hopefully we'll be able to clear some things up for you. I know it's super confusing on keto. There's the high fat camp, the high protein camp. We are super divided in some ways on these topics, and we are going to get into all of that on today's episode. I can't wait. You guys know that I am a huge data nerd, and I absolutely love using technology to get feedback and insight on my blood sugar, on my ketones, on my heart rate, so many different amazing tools. One of the tools I've used that's been the most insightful has been a continuous glucose monitor. You may have heard of a CGM in the past few years. They've been gaining in popularity. It's basically a device that you wear, and it gives you real-time feedback any time of the day, at any point after, before a meal, before exercise. You can check what your blood sugar is doing. And for me, wearing a device like this was so insightful into learning how my body actually responds to foods without having to prick my finger all day long. I was able to just use it, know that it was on, and any time throughout the day, I could just check and see what my blood glucose was doing. And also I could track trends and see how exercise and different meals were impacting my blood sugar. Now, one of the best ones that I recommend is by NutriSense. You can get it directly by going to their website, and they also have one of the best app experiences for tracking blood sugar data and things like meals, ketone measurements, and even stress events in your life. Only NutriSense pairs every user with a registered dietitian who's been trained to read metabolic data and make really wise, insightful suggestions. NutriSense helps people use this technology more successfully to meet your health and fitness goals. Now, one of the things they're all about is listening to your body with technology, because we all have unique and different reactions to different foods, different macronutrients, exercise, and just life. And it's really important to know what habits and go-to meals are really optimal for you. And wearing a CGM from NutriSense can really, really help with this. So if you go and try them out, there is a discount code for listeners of Fast Keto. It is Ketogenic Girl. And if you go to nutrisense.io and sign up, you will receive $25 off any of your first month of trying out NutriSense. Again, the code for that is Ketogenic Girl, all one word, and the website is nutrisense.io. Go and check it out. Let me know your feedback, your data, your insights. I would absolutely love to hear how you're doing with it. All right, let's get into it. I'm so pumped to talk to you guys about high fat versus high protein versus high fat. It goes on and on. It's confusing. We go back and forth. Is high fat better? Is high protein better? There's so many experts on both sides that are trying to convince us either way. Today, we're going to get into it precisely, some of the conclusions that I've personally drawn on this and explanations as to why both have merit, but both are different depending on your goals and where you're at personally. It's really a personal decision. I just want to start off with a couple of quick updates for you guys. So I've gotten some questions about what's going to be happening to the podcast as I give birth soon in about 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks here. I just want to keep you all in the loop so you know what to expect. I am not going anywhere. The show is not going anywhere. Some of you expected me to be taking a long leave. What I've been doing in the past months instead is just preparing for that time so that the show continues, the show goes on, and there won't be any interruption in content. Fingers crossed, that's my goal. And I think we're pretty much there. The one thing that's going to be changing, the Monday episodes will be the same with having an expert guest on or an Ask Me Anything episode with your questions. And the Thursday episodes, which are usually my reflections on the week's episode, they will either be replaying some of the best episodes that some of you guys haven't heard yet. So, the podcast just crossed 4 million downloads, which is so exciting. And, the show's been going for a few years. So there are some amazing episodes with some brilliant guests that have really informed a lot of, my thinking about keto that you may have missed. And so on the Thursday episodes, I'm hand selecting some of those episodes that I really think are maybe some of the most important episodes that have ever been aired in case you missed them when they first came out. So if you've been listening to every single episode, you may want to hear them again because I'm hand selecting them because I listened to them again because the information is so brilliant and amazing that our guests are sharing with us. And I'm also going to try to do solo casts, but I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea what it'll be like in terms of how much of a zombie I am sleep-wise in the first few months, especially after that. Hopefully it'll be better. But, I don't want to bring you guys any episodes that are subpar in quality. So, if I'm expecting that I'm not going to be able to put coherent and cohesive thoughts together, I don't want to waste your time with that. So I'd rather replay, the best content of the show. We started, I believe, in 2018. So, there's a few years of episodes and you may not have heard some of those that are just absolutely groundbreaking, but I haven't duplicated them because sometimes those episodes, what the guests share is so amazing and you're in a great zone and flow with them and you just can't do it again. Although I do try to have some of the best guests on multiple times, but if I can somehow record a solo cast that week, I will. So it'll sort of be a mix of the absolute best episodes that I think you need to hear and some interspersed with solo casts when I'm able to record. But if I don't sound like I normally do, just know that, maybe I'm a little sleep deprived. We'll see how it goes. I'm planning on having the baby sleep next to me for as long as possible in the bassinet next to the bed and, just being with the baby as much as possible, holding the baby, carrying the baby, basically operating like a primate. That's my plan. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how successful I am at it. But, who knows? Maybe I'll be able to podcast with my little one, wrapped to my bosom here and he won't mind and he'll just nod off or maybe he'll enjoy it. I have no idea what to expect, guys, because I'm a first-time mom. But, my priority every week is this show. So I do this for you guys. I love you guys. Appreciate you so much. And, those 4 million downloads are all thanks to you listening to the podcast, sharing the podcast, rating and reviewing the podcast. It's all because of you. So I'm so appreciative of you and I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want there to be any gaps in the show. And so that's my goal, is just making sure that, the show is continuing every week, and we'll see how the second episodes each week go. I thought about just doing one episode a week, and, that's always an option. That would be probably my last option. Like if I'm really not able to record anything and, I don't want to put out content that is just not going to be of value. Every episode has to have value that you guys can take away from. So anyways, we'll see how that goes. But you can expect the show to go on and to continue and not to have interruptions. So that's just one little update I wanted to give you all. I'm still wanting to share some really huge updates with you guys, but you all know it's been a year. There's been a lot of delays and things, and I don't like to speak about things until they're done. So I'm really, really excited to share some big things with you guys, but I don't want to, overly tease it, but I will be sharing more as soon as I can. I'm hoping very, 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 very soon. And otherwise, that's basically the updates. I just wanted to thank you again for your feedback, for leaving ratings and reviews. And I'm going to read a couple of the reviews at the end of the episode like I did last time because it was really fun. But I also want you to know that if there are guests or people that you want me to have on the show, please let me know. If there's topics you want me to talk about, please let me know because like I said, I do all of this for you guys. And I regularly put, in my stories on Instagram, requests for questions for particular guests. I usually do that most weeks because I love incorporating you guys into the show and having your questions brought directly to our guests. So, keep tagging me in your stories, tag our guests, let us know what you learned, what you took away, what you have personally achieved. I just love hearing from all of you. And on that note, today I had some amazing messages from Heather Ann Nowak, who has been doing amazing following some of the higher protein recommendations that I've made on here. And she just got her latest body scan and she was down almost 3% body fat from 24% to 21%. And I put it in my stories and I'm going to share a little post about her as well. But she said that she basically just followed what I've been recommending, what some of our guests like Dr. Ted Naiman have been recommending and lowering her fat intake a little bit. And she achieved some amazing body recomp. Now that's what we're going to get into with this high protein versus high fat. And I come at this from a perspective of having tried both. And I do want to say from the outset that it doesn't mean that this will be the same for everybody because there are outliers. There are people who don't necessarily do better with these methods. So I really think at the end of the day, if you are not sure which route to go, you can try both and see which one gives you the best results. But my experience has really been informed from doing keto for over 6 years and the first 4 years of that doing high fat keto. Then I decided to try experimenting with higher protein keto about 3 years ago. And I did some high protein experiments where I was eating 160 to 200 grams of protein a day. I don't even know how I did that because it's really hard for me to eat that much protein, especially these days. I get full really fast and my stomach is already huge with my beautiful little baby in there, but it's really hard to eat that much protein. And I figured out some different hacks and things that, can be used. And I can talk about those as well on a future episode to bump your protein higher if you are like me and it's difficult for you to eat that much protein. But I really learned so much from doing a high protein experiment. I basically just ate protein, no fat, no carbs, just 160 to 200 grams of protein in a day. And I really wanted to see what the difference would be in my body composition. Since I was doing it carnivore at the time, there were no carbs at all. And I did have some fat refeeds on the weekends, but most of what I was doing was just high protein. And so mono diet style, just protein, no carbs or fats. And I wanted to see how I would feel, how my body would change. I ended up at the end of my experiment gaining 8 pounds of lean mass and getting my body fat percentage down to 21%. So that was in the athletic category, and that was out doing any exercise. I wasn't doing any exercise at all, like not even going for walks. I just wanted to only investigate changing the protein I was eating and not changing any other variables. So in that time, I guess I was studying at the time, so it was really easy to not be that active. And I wasn't working out at the time, so it was only based on changes made in my diet. And I've spoken with several experts about my experiment, and they've all said it was really amazing, but also completely understandable. Part of the reason I think I gained so much muscle or lean mass is because, as I've said in several posts, I was vegetarian for about 17 years. And so in that time, I really didn't eat enough protein. I had no idea what I was doing, even though I was studying nutrition, studied it in university from the outset. And I really thought I knew what I was doing, but I was just following conventional methods. I was living in Vancouver, which is a vegetarian mecca. And if you want to brainwash yourself with vegetarian propaganda, it's the easiest place to do it. And, there's so many restaurants that cater to vegetarians and vegans, and it's a huge part of the culture. There's a lot of yoga, and I was into all of it, all the things, all the yoga. I was really into Buddhism at the time. And, part of that lifestyle is all about not eating any meat, just eating mostly plants. So most of my diet was just carbs, no fat, because, we were all taught that fat would kill us and make us fat. And I just wasn't eating enough protein because I wasn't eating animal source protein. So my protein sources at the time were chickpeas. I had lived on chickpeas, hummus, a lot of beans. It was very, very economical lifestyle as a student. I have to say, I would just get, my roommate and I would get these huge bags of dried kidney beans and pinto beans and chickpeas and black beans, and we would just cook them on the stove. And, it was like $1 a meal to just be eating all these beans. But that was basically my protein. I wasn't even, doing complete proteins like pairing the beans with rice. I thought there was enough protein in plants and even cucumbers. I watched documentaries that said there's enough protein in a cucumber. I mean, the things that I believed at the time just make no sense at all. And the proteins in plants are complete if you are a plant, because that's who they are intended for, is plants. They're not intended for humans. So you will never get complete protein that is bioavailable, bioabsorbable from plants. And that doesn't mean that I, look down on vegetarians or anything. I was a vegetarian for so long. And, looking back, a lot of it was motivated by wanting to lose weight and thinking that being vegetarian, I would be really thin. And it did the opposite for me because I was just eating so many carbs. I was constantly thinking about food and preoccupied with food and always feeling really stuffed, but never satisfied, always hungry. And it really affected my self-esteem because I didn't understand why, I was eating so much food. I was constantly hungry and I never felt full. And looking back, if I had just been incorporating some animal proteins, it would have helped so much. And I ended up seeing a naturopath who was vegetarian who told me I should start including animal products back into my diet because I was not feeling great at all. I was feeling like an old woman trapped in a 20-year-old body. And I started developing a lot of issues related to my digestion, a lot of very painful digestion. And so I gradually started adding in, some poultry, some seafood. That was the easiest thing, but I didn't eat red meat until about 2015. And so that was 6 years ago. So that's just all a very long story to say that during those 17 years, I know that I got so low on my protein intake that my muscles and bones, even though I worked out, which probably helped me preserve some of it, I know that I lost mineralization in my bones, because bones are mostly mineralized protein, and I lost a lot of amino acids. And so when I did this experiment, I think, partly replenishing a little bit of that bone and muscle. And I think that's why I gained 8 pounds, because that's a lot without working out. So I think it was sort of restoring some of that. But what I really learned from that experiment, and I've done whole episodes on this, is that I need to go high protein in order to feel really satiated. And I am absolutely convinced that high protein is the better route of the two if your goal is body recomposition and being leaner with more muscle and less body fat. I think that high fat keto is extremely valuable for restoring health. And that's why I'm so happy that I began my journey with high fat keto. I did it for 4 years. I really helped heal my hormones. I helped restore my body to homeostasis. I provided so much energy in the form of healthy fats. And, a lot of my skin, hair, and nails benefited from that. But a lot of that also comes from prioritizing protein. But I personally believe that high fat keto is the best for health and healing, and high protein keto is best for body recomposition. And I know that people have different goals. So I think that they should be really compared, using those lenses, because at the end of the day, it depends what your goal is. And so I think that a great way of looking at it is that you can cycle between the two depending on your goals at the time. So, as recently as last year, I was doing high protein keto. I was doing basically carnivore, as guys know, for a couple of years. And so I was doing high protein, high fat together. And then I started erring more and more on the protein side because I wanted to gain more muscle. Then I got extremely lean. Then I did a reverse diet with high fat keto because I wanted to restore a little bit of weight and also, heal some of my hormones. And that worked extremely well for me. And I did that for about 6 months. And then, since I've been pregnant, most of my energy sources have been coming from fat. So still doing high fat keto carnivore, but I also make sure that the protein is really high as well. And, that's what our bodies are made out of, protein and fat, and growing a new body inside this one. That's really what I wanted to prioritize. I have included some low starch carbs in there as well, but, it's been relatively minimal compared to the protein and fat. But when I go back to being just one person in this body, I am planning, once I get the hang of breastfeeding, assuming that goes well, to do a higher protein approach again, because I would like to focus, back on the journey that I was on before, which was getting leaner, building more muscle. And the biggest thing for me, if it did nothing else in terms of body recomposition, is that I constantly feel satisfied. And I know that that's not the case for everyone, but I've really looked at the research and all of these studies done on satiety and protein and carbs and fat. Protein is the one where people feel the most satisfied, and people claim all the time that they don't feel satisfied without fat. I think that fat, when you are eating the meal, it makes the meal more satisfying because it's more enjoyable. So if I'm eating super lean protein for my lunch, it's not as enjoyable, but I still get the super high satiating effects where I don't think about food until it's time to eat another meal. But when there's more fat in it, like when I'm eating fattier burgers and meat and all of that, which I've been doing, the meal itself is much more enjoyable. So I think it's more of you get more satisfaction at the meal, but the satiety to me comes down to getting the protein needs met. It's the highest need that we have is for protein every day and getting some of those essential fats in there. But protein is the most satisfying macronutrient for me. Now, that doesn't mean that if it's not that the case for you, that's wrong or anything. Some people do say that they feel more satisfied with high fat. And I've tried high fat and, doing really, really high fat, low protein does not satisfy me. I feel hungry and I feel more preoccupied with food, and I don't enjoy the food as much because I don't really like just eating fat on its own. I like eating fat with other stuff, but I don't like eating just fat. Like I could never just munch on a stick of butter. Like I've seen people do that and I cannot, but I can slather tons of butter on a steak or on some, keto waffles or French toast or protein sparing bread by Maria Emmerich. I can slather tons of butter on that stuff, but I just can't just eat it on its own like a mono diet of fat or just eating, I tried it, just eating high fat, like fried lard and all this stuff just is so off-putting for me. And I'm a big proponent of listening to your body's feedback and signals. And, it was always the same for me with eating like beef liver. I just couldn't stomach it. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the texture. I tried a couple times and I was like, no, if my body says this is gross, there's something about it that's just not meant for me. And, whereas like chicken or turkey liver is always delicious for me. And, doing the high fat, it was like I had to force myself. So when I found, that I could do higher protein and still be keto by controlling the carbs, I really felt like I found my sweet spot. And I really think it's up to everyone to figure that out for themselves. Don't just listen to what other people are doing and enjoying, but try them all out for yourself, because you may discover that you love doing high fat, or you may discover that you love doing high protein. But one thing I want to talk about is, the difference between ketogenesis or being in ketosis and lipolysis, which is the fat burning, and they are not mutually exclusive processes. So you don't have to be in ketosis or ketogenesis in order to be burning your own body fat. It is a part of it, but you can definitely burn body fat without having or registering high ketones. And you may not be able to measure the ketones if they're coming off your breath unless you have a breath ketone analyzer. But if you are measuring your blood and seeing low-ish ketones like 0.2 to 0.4 or 0.2 to 0.5, that's just what is left over when your body has become efficient. What really matters for getting the body into ketogenesis over everything else is controlling the amount of glucose or carbs or starches that you are consuming. And that's really what gets the body into ketogenesis or ketosis, is if you don't have a lot of carbohydrate coming in. So as long as you control the carbohydrate, you can still get into ketogenesis. Even if you're doing higher protein, I still have always had ketones my whole high protein experiment. My blood sugar was like 5 to 10 points higher on average, but I still had ketones, and they just weren't as high as when I was also ingesting fat and my liver was making ketones from, eating really high fat. But you can still burn body fat. It's proven by just looking at all the bodybuilders who eat really high protein and they eat really high carb, and they don't get into ketosis because they're eating such high carbs, but they do achieve incredible weight loss. And anyone who critiques looking at physique competitors or bodybuilders, these guys are professional fat losers. Like, they are professionals at losing body fat. They get down to the lowest body fats, to super unmaintainable, unrealistic levels to step on stage. And I can't think of anyone, if you were wanting to learn about how to gain muscle and lose fat, you would want to look at more than these people. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive daily nutritional beverage that I have ever tried. Life is stressful, let's face it, and it can be difficult to maintain optimal nutrition while juggling our businesses, our families, everything that we're doing. We have busy schedules, sometimes we're not sleeping well, and we just want to get the maximum amount of nutrients from our food. That's why I found Athletic Greens to be a life-changing nutritional habit. They have this amazing daily all-in-one superfood powder that you can just add to water and mix, and it makes a delicious drink. It is the easiest and the most delicious habit that you can add to your daily routine, and they really make it easy to get your optimal nutrition in on a daily basis by just giving you one thing with all the best things. I love finding hacks and ways to optimize my nutrition, and doing a keto diet or a carnivore diet, sometimes I don't know if I'm really getting all the nutrients that I possibly can, and I found adding in this beverage in the morning is such a great hack to make sure that I am not missing out on any nutrients, and it has become even more important to me in the last 8 months. I really love Athletic Greens because it actually tastes delicious. You just add 1 scoop of Athletic Greens to a glass of water. It has 75 vitamins, minerals from whole food sourced ingredients, and it has a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, greens superfood blend, and more. And they all work together to fill any nutritional gaps in the diet to increase energy and focus and help with digestion, which supports a healthy immune system. I really have found it to be so helpful for digestion, keeping me regular. Having a probiotic and a multivitamin all-in-one makes it so easy. Athletic Greens obsessively improves their one holistic formula based on the latest research, and they have produced 53 different versions over the last decade, and they are continually working on a new version all of the time. They invest in the most absorbable and natural sources of each ingredient, and they go above and beyond in third-party testing, which you guys know is so important to me, to ensure that customers continue to receive the highest quality and best daily nutritional habit on the planet. Right now, Athletic Greens is doubling down on supporting your immune system. They are offering my audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit my link today. You'll basically never have to buy vitamin D. Covering your bases with Athletic Greens makes investing in your energy, immunity, and gut health simple, tasty, and efficient. You can just visit athleticgreens.com/ketogenicgirl and join health experts, athletes, and health-conscious go-getters around the world who make a daily commitment to their health every day. Again, just visit athleticgreens.com/ketogenicgirl and get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. Try it out and let me know how you like it. Although what's really interesting in talking to Dr. Bill Campbell last week is he was saying that a lot of athletes now are incorporating reverse dieting, which is fascinating to me as a sports nutrition specialist, that for a long time that wasn't the case, and that they were experiencing major hormonal burnout, adrenal burnout, thyroid burnout, all of this because they were essentially, going on these cuts and dieting. And then when they stepped off stage, they would go and binge. And, we've heard stories like this before of that happening because psychologically you're eating rice cakes with fish on it for, weeks and weeks and weeks while pushing yourself extremely hard at the gym. And, also doing cardio on top of that. I mean, I can't imagine running 40, 50 minutes a day while just eating rice cakes. Oh, wait, no, I did do that for years. And when I was vegetarian, and I just got fat, probably because I was eating so many rice cakes, like way more than you were supposed to, like several boxes of them. But I know that can make you fat, but if you do it properly, it can also make you extremely, extremely lean. And it was interesting to learn that, from someone who has a lab studying this stuff, that he's seeing more and more athletes are starting to incorporate healthier routines where they are doing, staged, gradual, reverse dieting out of those stage ready seasons, those peak weeks, those peak seasons, and not totally going off the rails and binging, because, you could gain a lot of fat overnight if you have, slowed your metabolic rate down while getting really, really lean. And then, you reverse diet and binge, and your body just is in starvation mode. So it just puts on all the fat that it can. So you could end up, with worse body composition. But if you do a reverse diet properly, the way a lot of athletes are doing it now, you will put on the least amount of body fat while boosting your metabolic rate and being able to, increase calories and eat a way more than during show prep or during those seasons. And, I follow some healthy bodybuilders who really do it properly. And I watch a lot of their videos and see how they have a very healthy, sustainable approach. People who've won the Olympia multiple times, people who've won these Arnold's competitions, a lot of women especially. And, they're able to maintain a relatively low body fat percentage throughout the year, whether they are, dieting or off the diet in more of the bulking phase. But it's just really interesting to note that, a lot of them do high protein, do high carb. They really manipulate their carbs and fats a lot and don't really ever eat that much fat. It's mostly high protein, high carb. And they're able to do that because they are doing a lot of cardio and they are doing really intense workouts. I've started to get back into my weights workouts, and the afterburn from my weights workouts are the same and sometimes double what they were when I was doing my outdoor hikes as my primary exercise. And now I'm back into muscle building phase, and I get quite a large caloric burn because I'm doing the workouts relatively intensely. I'm not going crazy or anything because it's more difficult to do when you're pregnant, obviously. But, just getting back into it in the past 4 weeks, my strength has come back. Already when I started, I was barely doing a dozen push-ups, and now I'm doing 40 a day on my upper body days. And, from the knees, of course, because I am not a raging athlete, but just being able to do those exercises again and seeing the afterburn and seeing the caloric boost that I get from weight training, it's often higher than I would get from, walking and cardio and exercise and hiking. And a lot of these athletes lift super heavy weights. They do really intense sessions, and they need that fuel, which they mostly get from carbs and some fat. They definitely eat fat as well. But it's really interesting, that they're able to do it because their job is working out. So, if your job is working out, you can probably get away with it. Some people have a different kind of metabolism where they're able to do really well on carbs. And then there's some of us who figure out that once we try keto or high fat, wow, this is the way I was meant to eat. And, that's certainly been the case for me, which is why I'm so passionate about all this stuff. I think if your goal is something like fertility or getting your cycle back or healing your body from some kind of issue that it's having, the best route is a higher fat approach, if that is your priority. I do think it can also be utilized for weight loss. And I've said this several times, but my best performing program of all my programs, and I have high protein programs, I have, carnivore programs, and I have my original 28-day challenge program. That one does the best for most people if their goal is, healing, switching to becoming a fat burner, and in many, many, many cases, weight loss. People always go back to that plan. They'll try other ones and they're like, this one worked the best for me. And I think it's the combination of the healthy fats and getting, adequate protein. It's not super low restricted protein like some programs I've seen out there where people are eating 25, 30 grams of protein in a day, which sounds crazy, but there are people who advocate for that. And, doing maybe like 5 to 15% of your intake being protein. And I don't think that that's optimal either. So with my programs, that protein number is higher and people always really succeed on that program. And it did help me lose weight, which is why I created it in the first place. And I think it's the best way to start. If you're a sugar burner and you want to convert over, you need to train your body to burn fat, to burn body fat, and to burn the fat that you eat instead of burning primarily glucose or sugar. It helps transition things. You can restore your hormone function and, restore a lot of functions that may have been burnt out from doing high carb, from doing dieting, from over exercising, all these things. And then staging your progress so that gradually you get to a point where you want to start cranking it up, maybe busting through a weight loss stall, maybe increasing your lean mass and lowering your body fat percentage. You can try with adding in these high protein days, either 5 days a week or 3 to 5 days a week, and then doing higher fat refeeds on the weekends so that your metabolic rate stays nice and high. And I really think the refeeds on the weekends are important because you want to be eating at your maintenance calories and making sure that your hormones and your metabolism stay really strong and vital. And so I really think the ultimate way of, recomposing your body, if you're at that stage and you're also doing resistance training, which is a huge, huge, huge part of it, is, adding in those refeeds on the weekends and doing higher protein days. So whatever your protein percentage is at the moment, seeing if you can nudge it up and then nudge the fat down a bit, and you'll probably break through a stall. You'll probably, get to a new level of leanness. And, if you're measuring with body composition scanning and not just the scale, the scale can show some progress with that, but the majority of the time, if you're also resistance training and adding lean mass or muscle, you may not see much of a difference on the scale, because you're getting stronger and muscle weighs a lot. It weighs the same, I know, as fat, but 1 pound is 1 pound. But overall, you're going to be shifting your body composition towards being, heavier on the lean mass side and, lighter from the fat mass side. So I really think it is the best tool if you want to recompose your body, is doing a higher protein approach. It's the most satiating. It's the easiest way to diet because protein is so satisfying. And I don't think you really have to limit yourself on the protein side. People really fear that insulin being triggered by eating too much protein. But, when I was eating like 160, 180, 200 grams of protein, whatever the insulin was doing at the time, although I had my insulin tested after that and it was a 2, whatever the insulin may have been doing in that time, I think what it was doing was signaling the muscle to build muscle. And obviously from the body scan results, I saw that I had gained muscle. So, we don't always have to fear insulin. When it comes to muscle, insulin is an anabolic or growth signal. It can also be anabolic growth signal to our fat cells, which we don't want. But if you are mostly eating protein and you're in a caloric deficit because you've nudged your fat down a bit, then it's not going, that insulin being higher from protein is not the same as the insulin that is super high from chronically elevated blood sugar from eating carbs. When your blood sugar goes a bit higher on higher protein, it goes up by 5 to 10 points. When your blood sugar is higher from eating processed and refined carbs, it can go up from, 50 to 100 points. Like that is a massive, massive difference. So, I think that I have had experts on the show who've talked about doing higher fat. You cannot gain fat because there's really low insulin. Haven't found that to be true for myself. It may be true in theory and it may be true for some people, but if I just eat like 3,000 or 4,000 calories of fat, even though that's not releasing a lot of insulin, I will still gain weight. So, like I said at the beginning, you have to try it out for yourself and see what you thrive on, what you feel best on. And when you are out of that cutting phase, of that leaning out phase, then you can choose how you want to partition your energy macros. Do you want most of your energy to be coming from fat? Do you want most of your energy to be coming from carbohydrates? Or do you want a mix of like mostly fat and carb? I tend to go for my energy mix once I've prioritized the nutrients and protein and the nutrients and healthy fats. I tend to land somewhere around, higher fat and lower carb. Like I will always be low carb. I will never go back to high carb because it didn't work for me and I didn't feel good. And I was constantly hungry and thinking about food. I think that it is more in line with our physiology to get most of our energy from fat because that's how our body stores it in the form of fat. It's the most efficient way. And because it does keep insulin lower and you don't have those blood sugar spikes of, when you're eating a high carb diet. And I wasn't measuring my blood glucose when I was doing high carb, but I can only imagine what it was because of the way I felt. My hunger was spiking and falling. My moods were spiking and falling. I was super cranky, tired all the time, not sleeping well, not feeling good. I had a lot of pain from overeating gluten and carbs, and I will never go back to that because I hated feeling super unsatisfied and always hungry. And so the best combination for feeling satisfied to me is higher protein with most of your energy macros coming from fat and then some low starch carbohydrates. There are some carbs out there that are fibrous, that are green, that grow above the ground, that have lower amounts of starches in them. And I think that, there are some, like avocado, bell peppers, cucumber, olives. There are these like lower sugar fruits that also do well. For some people, it's berries. And, they can form a great part of a healthy intake of carbohydrate that is very low starch, but it's still low carb overall, no matter what you're doing. So a lot of this I've come to from interviewing different experts, and I'm sure that you can tell that I'm really open-minded when I talk to these guests. I really let them share their work, share their opinions, share their research without putting my own, spin on things or my own bias, because I just want to learn. I truly want to learn. So if I have a guest on who is super pro high fat, I just want to learn. It doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with everything that they're saying, but at the end of the day, the only thing that I can share is what it did for me and what it may or may not have done for clients that I've worked with, personally coaching them in my program, and the results that I've seen out in the world. But I cannot, speak to how it will work for you or make recommendations for you because I don't know how your physiology is and, what you prefer to eat and what you like. And if that ends up being higher carb with some healthy fats in there, as long as the protein stays the same, then that's really going to be optimal. And that's something that, Dr. Bill Campbell said, that when you are dieting, you don't move the protein up or down. And that goes the same if you're reverse dieting. The protein should always be prioritized. What you move up and down, and what are those levers that you play with, are the energy macros, the fat and the carb. And you always want to have a minimal amount of fat in there to make sure that your hormones are functioning. Sorry guys, starting to lose my voice as I wrap things up here. I hope you enjoyed this discussion of high protein versus high fat. I'm going to be talking more about it next week. I'm going to be talking about some of the studies on high protein versus high carb, low fat, and just talking through some of the results that people have achieved and some of the research. I'm really excited to have a couple of amazing scientists on next week, Simpson and Robbenheimer, who you may have heard Dr. Ted Naiman talk about. They really came up with the protein leverage hypothesis that Dr. Ted Naiman has popularized. They wrote a book on it, and we've been talking since last summer. They're finally coming on the podcast next week. So we're going to talk all about protein leverage and those studies that they've done and why they came to those conclusions that protein is the most satisfying, satiating macronutrient in terms of overall satiety and not wanting to overeat after consuming a meal because you've reached adequate protein and prioritization of protein. It all comes from their work. So really excited to have them on the show. And I know you guys are going to really get a lot out of that. And I've read their book, so we're going to be analyzing, some of the conclusions that they've drawn in there as well. So I'm busily preparing for that one because I've been anticipating it for over a year now, and I'm really excited for that one. And I just love doing these solo casts with you guys. Like I really just feel like we're going for a walk and hanging out. I know I always say that, but when you guys tag me and let me know where you're listening to the podcast from, like I get all warm and fuzzy because I really do feel like we're just hanging out, and I love seeing like where you're listening from, whether you're driving or walking or just doing errands around the house or, that stuff truly, truly brightens my day. So I love it when you guys tag me in your stories and let me know where you're listening from, or tag me in your posts about something that really stood out for you. And it was so cool seeing Heather and Noah, following some of the recommendations made on this show based on my personal experience in interviewing all these guests, that she was able to lose so much body fat in a relatively short period of time and gain muscle too. And that's really the goal, like she said in her stories, is not to become skinny, it's to become strong. And that's so, so important is, being as strong as we can be, because it's going to help us later in life as we grow in life, and being able to do more outside, being able to participate in life more. And I know that just getting back into my weights in the past month has boosted my body confidence a lot. Like, it's interesting to say that because I honestly have felt really good about my body during pregnancy, because I feel like the pregnant woman's body and like the belly is so beautiful. So, and like my husband, he's just constantly, loving on me and the baby. And, I've just never felt so beautiful from an inner beauty perspective, because I'm carrying life. And, I didn't really know if I would ever have this experience. It's completely blown me away, but I haven't felt as body confident as I feel now since getting back into my weights. Like I can see a difference. And when you are, like I talk about those newbie gains, like you can make a visible difference in a relatively short period of time if you are consistent. And I do 4 workouts a week, 4 upper body days, 4 lower body days. And usually I have a 5th day in there where I do some other stuff. But right now that's what I'm doing. And it's really boosted my confidence. Like when I walk by the mirror, I feel strong. And that's what gives me confidence, is feeling strong. And that's probably why I'm also feeling good through the pregnancy, is you realize how strong your body is, that it can create life and carry life. And it's such a privilege and an honor to do that. So anyways, like I said, the goal is to become strong and healthy. And I just really love it when you guys share with me your insights, your realizations, your changes, your progress. And you can join our Facebook group, which I recently created, which is called Fast Keto Podcast with Ketogenic Girl on Facebook. And it's just getting started, but I do really love the idea of growing this community in a way that we can all be connected to each other and share progress, share wins, compare notes with each other, and talk about some of the podcast guests and their findings and research together. So if you want to join that, you can search on Facebook for it. I think it's called Fast Keto Podcast. And if you search Fast Keto Podcast, it should come up on there. And hopefully we can keep growing the group and just expanding our community of Fast Ketoers here. I want to wrap things up just by mentioning a few of the awesome reviews that we received. Got a few new ones in the past week From G. Marhi, 5 stars, #1 podcast. Vanessa has wonderful insight in health and how to heal ourselves through nutrition. I love the guests she chooses to interview. I literally changed the way I feed my body because of all the knowledge she releases on her podcast. My favorites, to name a couple, are Dr. Kate Shanahan, Dr. Benjamin Bickman. My favorite go-to podcast when people ask me for information about keto carnivore. I am grateful for people like Vanessa leading the way to better health. I aspire to be like her. Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. That is so beautiful, Marhi. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener. I really appreciate you and sending you so much love. My very favorite podcast, 5 stars. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but this is my absolute favorite. I will listen to each one 2, 3, or more times. Vanessa asks the best questions and has excellent guests. I honestly look forward to her next podcast as soon as I'm done listening to the last. Oh my gosh. I don't know who wrote this because it's blank, but thank you so much for saying that. I really, really appreciate you. Jamie Girl 79, I'm in love. I absolutely love this podcast. So informative and motivating. Please keep them coming. I definitely will. Thank you so much for leaving me that. I really, really appreciate it. I'm in Idaho. Amazing resource. This podcast has been my go-to for updated information and biohacks for my keto journey. Her guests are fantastic and really know the healthiest way to adapt to this way of life. Thank you so much for the time that you give to this community. Well, thank you so much for the time that you take to listen to this podcast. It means so much to me. You guys, I love you. I really appreciate you. I love all your support and everything that you've given me over the years. And I cannot believe the podcast is over 4 million downloads, and we just keep growing, keep getting stronger, and keep getting the opportunity to have more and more brilliant people on this podcast, scientists, doctors, experts, and people who have passionately dedicated their lives to studying this stuff so that we can learn directly from them. And it's a huge honor to get to do this podcast and to have you guys listen every week. I really love you guys, and I'm going to get emotional again. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This new thing of reading the reviews is probably like boosting my happiness levels to really high new levels. So thank you guys so much. And I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you as always so much for listening. If you want to try out coaching or meal plans with me, I have all my programs at ketogenicgirl.com. That's www.ketogenicgirl.com. I am really excited about the reverse diet plans that I've been finishing up, and I can't wait to announce that they are all done. We're so close, like painfully close to being done, but these plans are just absolutely enormous. They are massive compared to any other program I've done so far because they're so detailed in what you need to do each week. So thank you for bearing with me. I love you guys so much. Wishing you a fat-fueled rest of your day, and catch you on the next episode. Bye for now. A few disclaimers. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice, as I am not a qualified healthcare provider. The information presented on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Ketogenic Girl is not qualified to provide medical advice. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to this podcast. Prior to beginning a ketogenic diet, you should undergo a full health screening with your physician to confirm that a keto diet is suitable for you and to rule out any conditions or contraindications that may pose risks or that are incompatible with the ketogenic diet. A keto diet may or may not be appropriate for you if you have any kind of health condition, whether known to you or unknown, so you must consult your physician to find this out. Anyone under the age of 18 should consult with their physician and their parents or legal guardian.